Thanks for that. Right, like I said, welcome everyone, and I hope you're all having a good break. And yes, I think I'm not going to talk too much. I think this session, how you've experienced it so things I will be going through some things, but I do testing. Okay, nothing in the chat yet. So I think maybe I should just presentation and then you guys can just stop me in between and see how it works. So I've got two screens. I'm going to screen. You can't actually see the chat. So I'm going to see if my technical ability is, if it's going to work today or not. Let's see. Right, I want to see, can you guys see this presentation, Unit 2, Visual Arts? Is that showing? Please tell me it's showing.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Is that showing? Yes, perfect. All right. So just one thing I wanted to know from you people. Thanks, Cherise. I wanted to know this morning because I know in the comments now, did you all manage to link, manage to get that chart? Because I'm difficulty. Some people actually got to this, but I think the basic thing was that we are. Right. So I know you guys saw that there's quite a lot of elements of art, the principles of art or design, you can call it, has been put in this unit. And just something that I want to clear up or discuss is just to remember that we don't want to bombard our learners with everything at the same time. We're going to just choose a few, but it's good to have it somewhere so that they can always go through the elements and the principles. And slowly but surely they will start to understand it. And we always link our theory to our practical tasks. One thing that I have picked up that occurs to a lot of learners is when they look specifically, you talk about shape. And this is just a screenshot I took out of that little art. When you talk about negative and positive space, actually it's about the object and what is not the object. But now learners get confused. And I don't know, I'd like to know from you guys if you've experienced it in your lessons, is they then talk about, when you ask them to explain the space in the artwork, then they talk about negative and positive space, which is not right. You know, space, we have got different kinds of spaces. We've got the real space, we've got the illusionistic space, and then we've got linear perspective, atmospheric perspective. So that's just something that but I mean, you sometimes leave it out not to confuse them, but I think it's very important because our eyes need to see the negative in order the object and the proportions correct. So it is very important to have that in. The that little activity. It was yeah, some of the activities you click on and then you answer, and then it will tell you it's correct or incorrect. So I think this is a good exercise. Like I said, with Lemina, we are still going through the process and we're learning how these units work. They sort of gremlins do sort of creep in. So if you look at this one, where it talks about the color, we've explained monochromatic, and the lodges, I can never pronounce that properly, warm colors and cool colors. But when, and I know some of you must have done this, when you did this little section and you wanted to click, okay, which images can be considered cool images? You probably clicked on all three and it said to you, wrong, try again. And you go, but they are. So what is important then, I think, as an educator, sometimes we do set little tests, but we're not really looking, you know, we actually do, we do make errors. So if you look at the examples given, you're going to go, yes, okay, that image, the first one actually looks green there. But if you look at the question, it says, consider cool images. All three of those are because we know blue is a cool color and we know green is a cool color. That's something that is hopefully fixed or corrected now. I just want to hear from you guys. Did you pick that up? Did you say what's going on makes sense? Did you Google it just to make sure that you know what's going on? Didn't see any sorry, you must have lost me there. I think that's a bad connection I've got at the moment. Struggling with my internet connection here at work. Maybe I'm going to turn off my video for now because I can get the messages you guys are struggling. So is the sound not good? Is the sound a bit better now once my video's off? Does that help?
It is better. I think it's better if your video is off, Amay. It is lagging a little bit and it's also frozen from time to time.
Sorry, that is my connection at work. I do apologize for that. So I think I'm going to leave that off, if that's all right for now.
I think that's good.
Awesome. Right, so am I sharing that again with you, the one with color?
So we see it.
Okay, perfect.
Let's start the race. 3 times round the garden.
I'm not sure where that sound is coming from. Somebody's not muted. Thank you. Right, okay, so another thing that I've picked up is when you go through, you'll see that the room of ours with Vincent van Gogh, there's something that we also needed to fix, but you might have picked it up. It talks about atmospheric perspective, but technically it is actually, the vanishing point or linear perspective. So that's something that we did pick up. If you look at this image here, okay, So we know, if you all know what linear perspective is, the lines are all converging into one point. Obviously not all the elements or all the objects. And Vincent van Gogh did that specifically because he wanted to create distortion and a feeling of discomfort in that room. So that's the one thing that I just wanted to point out to you guys. Right, and I'm going to go down all the way to the reviews because I think that's probably what you guys want to sort of talk about. Just if we have a look at this, you know, the comments were quite positive. But then in the middle one, how does Mrs. Bulana's approach differ from your own approach? In a classroom so big, it is difficult to let all students give and share their ideas all the time. Now, before I make a suggestion or something, please can you, you know, comment on it. What do you think is a good way or a good classroom management to work with bigger groups when not everybody can share their ideas? I would love to hear from you guys.
Hi, can I speak? It's Inga.
Yes, Inga, please do.
Okay, I'm one person who also works with big groups. So I normally, in a class of 50 learners, I would group them, and then if I need to hear their ideas, I would ask them to share them amongst the groups. For example, a group of 10 discuss what needs to be discussed, and then that one person from that group then will share what everybody in that group or from their group thinks. So it's not really possible to get everyone speak, but the group setting sort of works for me.
Absolutely, Inga. And I mean, that is a brilliant comment you made because, well, I mean, the day that our classroom should be these days is in groups, you know, that they do a lot of discussion. You throw a lot of ideas to them and they should be doing more, you know, discussing in the groups and then come up with answers and things. You're right. It's not the teacher standing in front and telling them things. So yeah, brilliant idea. I like that. And I see, Anina, you've commented about think, pair, share. Would you like to just elaborate a bit on that?
It's very much the same as our previous speaker, Amay. But what you know, where the question is posed and we sit in a pair, it could also be online and we respond. But I had another experience in a big class. It's not what I did, but I saw a teacher did. She actually had about 52 kids in a class. And what she did, she had stations. And the kids it's actually also groups, but they were in different stations. So there was a station there was one computer that had online, you know, capability. So the question that the teacher posed could be answered by each station in a different way. It takes careful planning, but the group that had the computer answered on the computer. And it was loaded up there, so it was an interactive. Another group had to respond in a certain way with a green or a red card. Another group had to respond with descriptive words. Another group had to respond using their bodies. So it's very much the same as our previous wonderful teachers said, but I think this was just another way that I found fantastic. You know, it takes a lot of work from the teacher because she's got to be very careful in her questioning and then expect different types of answers as a response to the question. So I just wanted to share that because it was, I thought, such a brilliant idea.
Thank you, Anina. I agree with you. It's actually amazing. And it's actually something that I was going to discuss a little bit later. And I think because of my coaching background, we use different stations. You learn different skills. So I use that in my classroom and it does work very well. So thank you for that. So if we can just have a look, I also just said here that, yes, group work, they can reflect in their books if you want to, great, you know, when they're 7, 8, and 9, and you know, they learn to sort of write a quick reflection on things, or you can have you display a board with sticky notes, and they can just put it up there. And when they've got time, they can walk around and have a look at the comments or the reflection there. Then the next one I had a look at here. Yes, it says the creating can help learners cope with everyday life. Absolutely, it's a very, Lisa, valuable comment there. We're all aware of how important the arts are. Anonymous, not all classrooms have the resources that she used. Absolutely, I agree with you. And I think that's where I want to come in and I wish I could actually have shown you, but there's something I did in my classes where every table you could have, let's say, an artwork, and you can have questions. So everything is paper. If you don't have resources in the sense of technology, that there are ways of working around certain things. Yes, we have to adapt. And I think maybe this is the platform where I think all these amazing teachers online here can maybe share some of your ways of how else you would do this if you didn't have the technology. Resources, understand, not all schools have got the money to print things, but in the end, if you do work well, you can have papers and you can create little cards, and you just print 1 or 2 visuals, and that you can share them amongst them. And as Anina said earlier, have different tables with different stations. Some things maybe with the elements of art, something principles, some things with, definitions and the visual, and linking up the things in the one group, and the other one having questions, and the one asked the other one in the group. So yeah, very, very, I think, let the learners be very actively involved. I know some say, oh, but it's going to be noisy, but it needs to be noisy in order for learners to really also learn things from each other. So are there any comments in this group that anybody wants to share? Okay, it doesn't look like it. There was just another comment here that Lisa has put in there as a review, and I think it's quite important, creating a reciprocal relationship with both teachers and students share with each other. With students, allow them to take the lead in their own learning process. I mean, that is absolutely so true. When learners feel that they're part of the class, part of the lesson, part of the project, they are interested, and they will obviously focus in class, and you won't have issues, I think, with learners not wanting to do work. Then there's another one. Amy has posted quite a few interesting things. Positive about the KWL. Amy, are you here? Would you like to just reflect a little bit more on that and share with the other teachers? Okay, it doesn't seem like she's here. Right, so the next one I want to look at, where she says, I've never used actual artworks from artists to explain art elements and principles. She focuses on the learner's own artworks. I just made a comment here. So I think it's a good approach to use learners' own work to obviously reflect, and they can also then see how well they use the elements and the principles, or what's lacking, what they can improve on. But yes, I think what I've noticed, a lot of teachers, and I could be wrong, but I've seen it where they just teach the learners about the elements, so they show them the definition and the actual element. And I think the approach that what we're trying to do here with Vincent van Gogh and with the other, the little activities we did, is to actually show the artwork and tell them in that artwork, what do you see is happening with line? Or can you see line there? Can you see the elements? What is the color like? And that makes it so much more meaningful to learn about the elements of art and the principles of art, or principles of design, is they are visually, because it's a visual subject that we are teaching. It's a visual thing that they see, and they can directly link it to something that they are physically seeing and looking at. The one I've got here is make use of student-centered approach more often to encourage learners to learn independently. Yes. I know it's anonymous now, obviously, so that person cannot share. an example, it would be great to know, but I think I mentioned it just briefly last week, is sometimes when the computer room is available and you're able to use it, it's very nice for learners to go into that, or they've got tablets, because there are activities that they can work on in their own time. I know you've got 30 minutes maybe sometimes, or 40 minutes, but in that way that they, they engage on their own and they're independently working through activities. And it's not in a classwork, or group work is great, but sometimes one-on-one with your device or the videos that you watch is also not a bad approach to use in class. I think this is the same, just talking about the big class sizes that we are dealing with in schools, and obviously limited resources. Yes, recycled materials is always a good way of creating beautiful art. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean, I mean, even with a basic pencil and paper, you can create meaningful art. Let's look at the next one. I wanted to look at this one on the left-hand side. I mean, that is definitely, I think, what a lot of schools are struggling with. And again, before I say something, I would really like you guys to maybe just share with me your experiences, what you have had so far and what you've been struggling with. But I've seen a lot of schools don't get their double lessons when it comes to creative arts. So they have a 30-minute lesson and then other subjects, and then another 30 minutes. And I know when it comes to especially visual art, you have to set out the art materials, and then obviously there's cleaning involved. So with a 30-minute session, not much is going to happen in that lesson. So is there anybody that wants to share and tell me how they sort of have resolved this problem of just having 30 minutes and they're doing a practical lesson in visual arts?
If I may.
Yes, Anina,
I have
thanks.
seen that the flipped classroom methodology also work well in a case like this. Again, it takes quite a lot of preparation, but with the flipped methodology, one can start it off in a very simple way. It doesn't have to be so sophisticated, but the basic knowledge, the basic information can be shared with learners beforehand, where they get a little structured task, like a little comprehension that they've got to read beforehand. That's the basic knowledge, the basic information that one wants to share. So the children come into the class already with something, some back knowledge. It might be just 2 paragraphs that they've read already, with one question, just 1 or 2 leading questions. And then when you get into the class, the practical application type of work starts, with the deeper work that they cannot do at home. And then when they leave again, they will do work that might continue from what they did in class, or that's more simple. But I think the idea with, the basic knowledge stuff that one could share with children beforehand, the deeper, more complex work that is more application-based is in class, the practical, and then afterwards it could be consolidation. I know the flipped learning methodology can be very sophisticated, but I've seen this work very well. It takes a bit of time to get the children into it, but it provides a lot of pre-knowledge for you to move on and save some time.
Thank you, Anina. That's actually true. And just on a personal note, I've got 2 children at university now, and it's quite interesting because they were saying to me that they have to do preparation. They've noticed if they don't prepare for their lectures, they get in there and they actually get lost. So in that sense, they do have to do some homework, and they prepare so that they can have a meaningful discussion during that session and lesson. So I agree with you. So when it comes to introducing, let's say, self-portraits of portraiture, you could share that PowerPoint with them if they do have it, or in a PDF format, so they can look at examples and ideas beforehand, so that you don't spend that time in class to go through all these things. You're right. Also to give them maybe the basics of the proportions of the face, having a look at it beforehand, so when they get to class, they actually can just start drawing. You can really have dynamic lessons and sessions. And for me, sometimes I find those 30 minutes you know, there's a lot of time wasted with kids when you've got 40 minutes or 50 minutes where they can just talk because they know they've got time. But if it's 30 minutes, it's an impact time and they have to sit and they have to focus, especially if you tell these learners they're not taking the art home, they've got time in class. They will sit down and they, you know, they will graft. There are also ways of you know, when you do practical work where you actually save your different paints and different, the colors, and they just open it up. There's a lot of mess going on. I think it's just preparation from an art teacher's point of view to actually make these lessons worthwhile. Is there anything else? Okay, there's a good one. The first 30 minutes, I normally go through the work, and the second 30 minutes, okay. So you've split it up, a 30-minute theory lesson or discussion, and then the other one is a practical one. That works well too. Yes, sorry, Oliver, I just wanted to go this, yeah, it would be amazing. I mean, that's always my, when I go to schools, is to ask them, please, if you can, in the beginning of the year, give at least 1 hour period, you know, for the cycle to do a practical session. But like I said, not all schools are keen on doing that, but you're right. If you can do that and get the coordinators or management to do that at your school, that is the best way ever. Yes, Olive.
May, I just wanted to pick up on what you said about the preparation, that when the learners come into class, because it's such a short lesson, that the learners have a little bit of a head start. And I just think that for best practice, it's so beautiful when kids already know the expectations of the class dynamic and what the teacher is going to do in class for that session. Because that helps the classroom management and the classroom discipline. So this is, for me, it's when they call it soft skills. The arts for me is definitely not soft skills in this respect, because it just speaks about expectations. So whether you're doing art or drama, when the learners have a little bit to go on in the week, and when they come to class, they know exactly what they're going to do in 30 minutes. I absolutely believe, I mean, I just want to stand with you that 30 minutes can be super punchy. It can be super dynamic, the class activities that's happening, but it has to be very well prepared. But those leading questions, or that little bit of work that the kids have to do before they get to class, for me is crucial to what happens and the process that the kids go through in those actual, like, 25 minutes. It's not really 30 minutes. But I do believe that the preparation work is where the golden nuggets lie. So I just wanted to add that, Ame. So thank you so much.
Thanks for that, Olive. I agree with you. And I think cleaning up after ourselves is a skill that most kids just don't, you know, they just don't have. So it's vital in the art class, visual art especially, you know, that each one just, if they just clean up after themselves, then we won't have a huge issue or a big cleanup at the end. So I think that's something I just wanted to focus on or say. Are there any other questions? Are there any concerns that teachers have got with the exercises that you went through? Is there a specific page that you want us to go to and have a look at it? Visual literacy, the way that we've discussed it. I mean, you guys obviously saw that. You will see the PowerPoint that was embedded or that was sent with you is definitely linking portraiture with the theory. I mean, the two needs to be linked, and then you bring in elements of art into that is relevant, not all of it. I wanted that to be quite clear, and I just hope that you guys did experience it when you did this unit 2. So are there anything that anybody wants to actually comment? Or I don't know if there's anybody, if you would like me to go through the process again with visual literacy.
I'd like that, please.
Okay, so I hope I'm not going to bore some of you, but it is for me very important that we actually get this right. It's actually a very simple formula. And this is not in the, it's not in the unit, but this is something that I've sort of put together, and I'm very happy to share this with everyone. There is a way of looking at things, and you know, we always have to talk about the theme or the subject. Learners don't always understand that. And how do we look at that? I've just put it here in blue. We normally look at the title. The title helps us. So if you look at the right-hand side, it says the self-portrait, Vincent van Gogh, self-portrait. So that in itself will give you an idea of what the theme or the subject matter will be. The formal elements, like I said, we discuss things. I've just put down a few, but we are not discussing, I would say, roughly about 3 or 4 formal elements and principles of design would be good. 3 elements maybe and 1 principle of design, and that's it. Again, I think we are just bombarding the poor learners with just too much content, and there's not enough in-depth, I think, learning going on there. The style in the art medium is something that's normally expressed. The medium is also given in the information here. It's oil on canvas. So there's not too much that they have to worry about. It's stipulated. But the style is something that can be discussed, and then the content or the message. So, sorry, what I was just going to say is, what is the artwork made of? How skillfully is it employed? And then the technique, what was used. Again, we don't want to tell them too much. Maybe you can compare two artworks. I would say especially grade 8 and 9, you can do 2 or 3. A comparison is a very good way for learners to learn as well. So you could have an artwork that's realism and one that's post-impressionism, and then they compare the styles and the color use that's been used. So you can see here, I've just discussed elements. Line is very important in Vincent's work because you can see how, I mean, that his whole work, it's very curvy, very movable line. So that's why line was chosen. Color obviously is very important there as well, because you can see that the color is not realistically done. If you see greens in the face, and he's got the ochre, so it's the complementary colors used there. And then space is another thing. And how do you create unity? Because in this sense, there was a repetition of color in the foreground and the background. So just by taking out the most important elements there, and one principle that is, I mean, there's a lot of writing going on, but that's just to explain it to you as a teacher. Learners can summarize it, they can tell it in their own words. But for me, when I do that visual literacy, that would be more than enough to discuss. So you can see that was there. Is the style again, it's very, very elaborately explained, and the art medium as well. You can see that. So discuss these things, but again, that's all that needs to be done. So in the unit, you'll see that they have got Rembrandt van Rijn that was there. I think another one was Frida Kahlo, and then one was by Vincent van Gogh. So like I said earlier, for me, comparison, and this is what the unit's still, we're still working on it, but I would like to just discuss color, space, and style in this work. The same color, space, and style, because now we're comparing this artwork with the previous one. And then if we look at Vincent van Gogh, just another one is color, space, and style. And by learners drawing up a table and they compare these things, they will definitely have a better understanding of just those 3. And if that's what you teach them that term, believe me, and they understand it, you won't have to teach that to them again. And that for me is, I think, again, less is more. It's important to just focus on these things. Like I said, again, I'm very happy to share these with you. I don't know if there are any of you that are teaching in Afrikaans medium schools. Anybody in this group?
We are actually teaching in Afrikaans medium school, ma'am.
Is it actually common? Okay. So what I can do is, so what we've got here in the unit, you will see that there's that elaborate thing of elements of art and then that principles of art. I have actually got that in a Word document, and I'm very happy to share that with you if you would like that. And then, I mean, I could have the English and the Afrikaans one, and we could send that through to you. I will let admin actually control that and then maybe send it from there on, if that's okay. I don't know, Cherise, would you be able to just maybe explain to me how one could work around that, sharing resources and things? seeing as you're the technical guru here.
We could, I'm not sure about putting them onto here. I think you can share files onto the chat if you would want to share it live. Otherwise, we can
I'll
always
just put it on the
send
WhatsApp
through-
group. Should that be all right? I can just share it there.
Yes, you can also put it on the WhatsApp.
Maybe that's the easiest. Okay.
Or you can send it to myself and Oyama, and we can always send out an email if necessary.
Okay.
So we can do both, whichever's easiest for you.
Okay. Yeah, because I know some teachers prefer it on their email and not WhatsApp. So maybe, Cherise, that would be, if we could do that, I think that would be quite nice. If you would be able to then send the email out.
Okay, wonderful. I'll do that. Then you can just send it to, I'll send you my email address in case you don't have it. And then you can send it through to me and Oyama, and then we will send out a mail to all the participants.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions that anybody has got? I see we are only used 35 minutes. So obviously, I'm not such a long talker or big talker. Anybody would like to share anything that I've left out or something that you don't understand? Yes. Is it Sumaya?
Yes. Hi, good day, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't really have a question, but there are just a few points that I made going through the course thus far. I'd like to echo what was discussed previously about flipped classroom. I feel it's so important. I like to send during the holiday period, I like to send a thing link, which is basically where I can design a page where so I'm sending one thing to them in the WhatsApp group, and when they open it up, they can access like maybe a little video, or I can basically put more than one thing there and link it. So it actually saves space. So they can access maybe a video activity or a game related to the concept that we're going to do the next term. And I feel that basically starts to build the foundation in what exactly will be expected when we return to school. And the other thing is, I really feel if there's one thing that really stands out from the 5-day workshop we had at Stellenbosch, it was the fact that I waste a lot of time as the teacher, because I'm very detail orientated, and because of that, I feel maybe I have been limiting my learners because of that. And that's why I also feel the flipped classroom also benefits in that regard, because it saves time. And I'm grade 6 this year, so I think the benefit of having class teaching is that I'm able to manipulate the timetable to a certain degree, where I can combine periods and then basically slot in so that I have the periods to do my practicals and I have enough time. And then the last thing I wanted to just add is not a negative, but something that I'm actually sitting and trying to work out for next year, because the challenge that we have as grade 6s is because we're losing teachers. We're supposed to be 4 classes, but it seems that we'll only be 3 teachers and we have 4 classes coming over, which means that I'm going to have even less space in my class because we're going to have to absorb the 4th class. So that's also something I'm trying to look at. So having stations won't really work, but I'm thinking of maybe moving my lesson then to the library where there's more space, and I can maybe then set up stations, which I also feel what Olive was saying, preparation is key then. But that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much for the course. I've really learned so much. Thank you.
Amazing, pleasure. And you know what I like about your attitude is you have problems, but you've already started to think of solutions. Nobody else is going to find a solution for you, so you're going to make one yourself. And if you can rearrange that in your classroom or use another venue, I mean, that's amazing. Absolutely. Because
Thank you
are
so much.
all sitting with challenges, but well done, and thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
And yeah, I like the idea of sharing your videos and things beforehand. And this is something that Anina has actually said to me before, is to create curiosity with learners. I think that for me is quite fundamental. So you can always come up with something very interesting, something that's not part of the curriculum that makes them want to find out more. You just throw something out there. And then they must go and research and find, and that's the beginning then of their actual task, and come back with the information. So yes, well done on that. I see people are saying here that they are having problems to download that face drawing, the PDF. So maybe that's that PowerPoint thing I've created. Yes, I will gladly share that with you as well in the email. That will then accompany, all the information I've got. I will share that. Right, is there anything else anybody wants to share?
May, our
Yes.
previous speaker reminded me also of the gift of being an intermediate phase teacher, where and if you are a class teacher, you have the ability to, maybe the word is not manipulate, but to control time and content. And I'm just thinking of your visual literacy activity and how beautifully it links with language, that you use that as part of your languages, to describe and so on, and to discuss. And, one can always be fluid when you start to plan and see how your art moves into your language lesson, your PSW moves into your drama. I think it's very important to be in control of the curriculum and not let the curriculum control you. So that's the one point I want to make. And I think one mustn't be scared of that, because the minute you start to integrate, especially in the intermediate phase, I think learning becomes so much more meaningful. But there's another thing that I wanted to share.
Absolutely.
I'm not a visual artist, but I think I've shared this with you once. I always felt very daunted when I, was in an art gallery and I would look at art and I would think, I have no idea what this means. And I must be so stupid because I don't see what it's supposed to be, And then a friend of mine took me through also what you have done now, exactly what you've done. But what she said, and you might have said it and I might have missed it, but she said to me, explain what you see as if to someone who is blind. And there you get into the language again, the language ability, and literally say, what do you see in the foreground, in the middle ground, in the background? Talk about the texture. And in that, all those art elements really come out, when you say, he has a dark hat on with, a scruffy looking texture in the front, and then and he's got a white piece of cloth, that type of thing, and in that way one starts to make meaning, and but it's literally that literal explanation of what you see as if describing it to a blind person. And that helped me a lot, because then I started to make sense of art. Sorry that I spoke so long, but you made me excited when you analyzed this artwork now, and it reminded me of that.
No, and and I agree with you. And I think what we as art teachers normally do, we actually just facilitate us, because we as people, there's just so much around us going on. It's a visual world. So we've started to block things off. So what the art does is, you're right, especially visual art, looking at things, is we are starting to look at things in a deeper sense. Even when you teach learners to draw, you actually tell them to look at the object. It's something they can all see. They've got, they've got the ability to see, but showing them how to look at things in a different perspective, in a different way. And through that, they actually see, oh yes, that's what it looks like. Oh, I see my line is a little bit skew or whatever. So yes, it's again, the practical and the theory, it just links up. Visual literacy, looking at an artwork and looking at your own work, is something that we do in the in visual arts. It's a very important skill, and it's something that everyone can do. And yes, you can improve on that. So thank you for sharing that, Anina. I really appreciate it. I like this comment here that says, yes, our English literature students joined us for a gallery visit and then wrote a review about the gallery, whilst the art and design students make quick sketches of their favorite works and analyze and compare works later. Wow, that's brilliant, brilliant. Amazing that you guys could have gone to a gallery exhibition. I mean, sometimes you can't. I know when I was teaching online for quite a while, learners were from all over, and there's some amazing galleries and exhibitions that's virtual that you can actually go online if you have got the facility to go through that. It actually, some of the sculptures, you can actually click on it and it actually turns and you can see the whole 3D. You can see it from different perspectives. So that's also quite an interesting thing to do. Right, is there anything else that we have missed? I think something that we said last week is we have got that group. And if there's something specific that you are struggling with, please feel free. If you went through the unit and it's something we haven't discussed or you don't want to talk about it now, please feel free to just pop a message on the group, and then I can privately have a discussion with you if you want, or you can send an email to admin and we can take it from there. But I think for me, this whole dual communication is incredibly important. Otherwise, we all should be learning, and it should be meaningful, like you said earlier as well, Anina. All of this must be meaningful for all of us. Is there anything else anybody wants to say? I think there's somebody's sound is on. So I think now that I just want to find my actual, so many things open here. I'm going to stop sharing. And I know we've got 15 minutes left, but if there's really nothing that anybody wants to share or contribute, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and waste your time. Cherise, is there anything from you that you'd like to maybe add or say from your side?
Thank you, Amay. No, there's nothing from my side. I'm just going to post in the chat. I'm going to put our email address if you have any queries, our phone number if you have any queries, and Oyama will be able to assist you. Other than that, we'll definitely keep an eye out on your emails. We'll send out the documents that Amay will be sharing with you. And we will also be posting this recording tomorrow. So you can also keep an eye out for that. If you want to go and have a look back at this recording, then you can. And that's it from my side.
Thank you for that, Cherise. I appreciate it. I'm just going to turn on my video for a second and hopefully, there we go. Hopefully next time it will be not lagging and the sound will be better. But thank you everyone for joining us. And yeah, we will see you all next week. Hopefully, yeah, who's doing unit 3? Is that you, Anina? No, that's Olive. Olive will be doing the next session.
Yes, Amay, I'm doing unit 3 and then I'm also doing unit 4. So for the next
Fabulous.
2 weeks, we are going to be musicking. So
Can't wait for that.
Oh dear Lord, save our souls. Okay. Thanks, Amay.
Thanks, Olive. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely rest of the week. And we'll chat